Hello, America. Tonight, we're diving into the wild world of stimulus checks. Remember those? Those magical government deposits that briefly made your bank account look somewhat respectable? Well, hold on to your hats, folks, because there's talk of a new round of checks, and these babies could be huge, a whopping $5,000 per person. Yes, you heard that right. $5,000. Now, before you start planning that trip to Vegas, or, paying off your student loans, let's unpack this a bit. The idea is being pushed by none other than former President Donald Trump, who seems to have rediscovered his love for putting money in the pockets of ordinary Americans. Now, where this money would come from is a whole other story. The proposal has sparked a firestorm of debate, with some praising it as a lifeline for struggling families and others denouncing it as a reckless spending spree. So, is this $5,000 stimulus check just a pipe dream, or could it actually become a reality? Let's break it down. First, let's consider the potential impact of such a significant amount of money. For many Americans, an extra $5,000 could mean the difference between financial stability and hardship. It could help cover essential expenses like rent, groceries, and medical bills, or even provide a cushion for unexpected emergencies. Economists are divided on the issue. Some argue that injecting more money into the economy could stimulate growth and help recover from the economic downturn caused by the pandemic. Others worry that it could lead to inflation and increase the national debt. Politically, the proposal is a hot potato. Supporters believe it's a necessary measure to support struggling families and boost the economy. Critics, however, see it as a populist move that could have long-term negative consequences. For the average American, the prospect of receiving such a substantial check is both exciting and daunting. It raises questions about how to best use the money and what the future holds for government assistance programs. As we wait to see if this proposal gains traction, one thing is clear. The conversation about stimulus checks is far from over. Whether it's $5,000 or another amount, the debate over how to support Americans in times of need will continue to be a central issue in our national discourse. The proponents of these hefty checks claim that the government has a secret stash of cash just sitting around, ripe for the taking. They argue that this hidden treasure trove is the result of years of careful budgeting and financial wizardry by the government, which has supposedly managed to squirrel away billions without anyone noticing. They point to a supposed $115 billion in savings, achieved through various government efficiency measures. These measures, they say, include cutting down on bureaucratic red tape, streamlining operations, and eliminating wasteful spending. It's a compelling narrative, one that paints a picture of a government finally getting its act together and being responsible with taxpayer money. According to their calculations, that translates to about $714 for every taxpayer in America. This figure is based on the assumption that the entire $115 billion would be evenly distributed among all taxpayers, which sounds like a fair and equitable solution on the surface. Now, I'm no math whiz, but even I can tell you that $714 is a far cry from $5,000. The discrepancy between these two figures raises some serious questions about the validity of the claims being made. If the math doesn't add up, then where is the rest of the money supposed to come from? So, where's the rest of the money supposed to come from? This is where the proponents' arguments start to fall apart. They suggest that additional funds could be sourced from other areas of the budget, but they are often vague about the specifics. It's easy to make grand promises when you don't have to provide detailed explanations. Well, that's where things get a little murky. The lack of transparency and concrete details makes it difficult to assess the feasibility of these proposals. Without clear information, it's hard to determine whether these savings are real or just a figment of someone's imagination. Some have suggested slashing foreign aid, arguing that the money spent on helping other countries could be better used at home. This is a contentious issue, as foreign aid is often seen as a moral obligation and a tool for maintaining international relations, while others have proposed cutting back on what they deem wasteful government spending. This includes everything from public arts programs to scientific research grants. The problem is, what one person considers wasteful, another might see as essential. But as we all know, one person's wasteful spending is another person's essential government program. This makes it incredibly difficult to reach a consensus on where cuts should be made. The debate over government spending is as old as the government itself, and it's unlikely to be resolved anytime soon. The truth is, the details about these alleged savings are about as clear as a mud puddle after a rainstorm. Without transparency and accountability, it's impossible to know whether these savings are real or just wishful thinking. Until we get some concrete evidence, it's best to take these claims with a grain of salt, or perhaps a whole salt lick. In the meantime, it's important to remain skeptical and demand more information before jumping to conclusions. So let's assume for a moment that the government actually has found a way to conjure up billions of dollars for another round of stimulus checks. This isn't just a hypothetical scenario. It's a real possibility that has been discussed in various economic circles and political arenas. The idea of another stimulus check has been floated around as a potential solution to help boost the economy and provide relief to those who are still struggling in the aftermath of economic downturns. The question then becomes, how much should each person get? This isn't a simple question, and the answer could have far-reaching implications. Different groups have different opinions on what the right amount should be, and these opinions are often influenced by various economic theories and political ideologies. On one side of the ring, we have Team $5,000, led by the former president himself. This team believes that a large, one-time payment would be the most effective way to stimulate the economy. They argue that a big, bold check is what's needed to truly stimulate the economy and provide meaningful relief to struggling families. The idea is that with a significant amount of money in hand, people would be more likely to spend it on big-ticket items, thereby giving a substantial boost to various sectors of the economy. They argue that a big, bold check is what's needed to truly stimulate the economy and provide meaningful relief to struggling families. This approach is based on the belief that a large sum of money would have a more immediate and noticeable impact on people's lives, allowing them to pay off debts, make significant purchases, and generally feel more financially secure. In the other corner, we have Team $1,000, who prefer a more cautious approach. They argue that multiple smaller checks spread out over time would be more effective at boosting the economy and would prevent people from blowing through their stimulus money all at once. This team believes that smaller, more frequent payments would encourage people to spend the money more wisely, spreading out their expenditures and providing a more sustained boost to the economy. They argue that multiple smaller checks spread out over time would be more effective at boosting the economy and would prevent people from blowing through their stimulus money all at once. This approach is based on the idea that people are more likely to make thoughtful, considered purchases when they receive smaller amounts of money over a longer period, rather than spending a large sum all at once. Both sides make valid points, but let's be honest. Arguing over how much free money we should get is a bit like debating which luxury yacht we'd rather be stranded on. It's a debate that, while important, can sometimes feel a bit detached from the everyday realities that most people face. After all, any amount of free money is likely to be welcomed by those who are struggling to make ends meet. Sure, one might have a slightly better buffet, but at the end of the day, we're still talking about a pretty sweet deal. The real question is how to balance immediate relief with long-term economic stability, ensuring that the stimulus not only helps people in the short term, but also contributes to a more robust and resilient economy in the future. But wait, there's more. Just when you thought the stimulus situation couldn't get any more convoluted, a new wrinkle has emerged: Social Security. It seems our government, in its infinite wisdom, has managed to muck things up yet again. Recent court rulings have reportedly halted Social Security payments to hundreds of thousands of Americans. That's right, folks. The government is now failing to deliver on a program that people have been paying into their entire working lives. And this, my friends, is no small potatoes. Social Security is a lifeline for millions of elderly and disabled Americans, many of whom rely on these payments to keep a roof over their heads and food on the table. So, while we're busy debating the merits of $5,000 stimulus checks, let's not forget about the very real crisis unfolding right now with Social Security. After all, it's a bit hard to get excited about a potential windfall when you're worried about how you're going to pay next month's rent.